Warm welcome back then to the Andy Holding Speed Figures YouTube channel with the latest of our previews for Cheltenham. Sam Turner here with you, and co-host Andy Holding joins us from his North Wales base. Evening, Andy. Are you in good form?
Hi, Sam. Yes, pretty good. Very much you feel as though it's almost in touching distance now. Cheltenham next week, of course. A lot of the chat will all be done and dusted by this time next week, and we'll be settling down, looking at the prices and striking a few bets. A lot can happen between now and then. I think one or two of the ante-post bets that we've had, we've just got to hope that they get there in one piece. And yeah, it's all looking set fair now, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I've tried to follow you in with the lucky check shirt, so fingers crossed we have a good couple of weeks. And just to reiterate that every night from hopefully about 6 o'clock, there should be a new video looking ahead 24 hours, well, 12 hours or whatever it is, to the next day's action. So me and you will be running through these. We may even be joined by Andy Bate as well, if we're lucky. And we'll be running through the best bets for the following day, won't we?
That's the plan, Sam, yeah. As soon as the racing's finished, I think every day finishes at 4:50. We'll let the dust settle. Gives us a chance to evaluate what happened on the day, of course. Spot what trainers are informed. That might have an influence in how we approach the next day. But around about 5:30, we'll be recording, and hopefully we'll have it up on site. Within an hour, let's say, if we're lucky, and you can get the latest information and hopefully take advantage of the best bets for the day after.
Okay, and that's all totally exclusive to Andy Holding Speed Figure subscribers. Just looking back at the weekend, Andy, there were one or two horses who threw their cap in the ring for Cheltenham. Perhaps if we could just do a swift appraisal of what caught your eye there. Perhaps starting with Kelso, who put on some fabulous prize money and were well rewarded with a very competitive card. And the More Battle Hurdle has potentially thrown up a very well handicapped horse who seemed to relish the strong gallop that they went there. In the Shunter, the Irish raider who came over, beat Night Edition, who ran really well and could well go to Cheltenham himself and try and repeat the level of performance that he achieved 12 months ago in the Boodles. And Fatwa, a nicely progressive and unexposed hurdle of Dan and Harry Skelton's. But the Shunter put them away nicely, and he's now up for a 100 grand bonus if he can repeat the dose at Cheltenham.
Yeah, he is, isn't he, Sam? This is almost a trip back through yesteryear, wasn't it, of how certain connections used to plot a potential bonus and spot a chance to win one race and then go on to win the Cheltenham Festival, like they used to do in the Imperial Cup when Martin Pipe in his heyday used to do. I think he did it with a juvenile, didn't he? He won the was it Gaspar? Was it Gaspar? Yeah, many moons ago, won the Imperial Cup and then went to the
Olympian. Did Olympian do it as well?
Olympian did it. Yeah, he won the. I think he won the. Did he win the county or the Coral Cup? Can't quite remember, but I do remember the juvenile winning the Imperial Cup and then landing the punt in the Boodles, what it is now. And yeah, and I think the connections have mapped out. They've got the first leg of the double up with the More Battle, and mapping out a plan to win the More Battle and then go on to win any race at the Cheltenham Festival, which is worth 100 grand. Nice work if you can get it. And it's very much now dependent on which race they see fit will suit the horse best on the day. And that's easier said than done because ground conditions will have something to say in that. He wants soft ground, the Shunter. And I think if it was genuine soft ground, they'd probably stick to 2 miles. They'd stick to what they know. We know he's a strong stayer at 2 miles. His time figures have been going up quite nicely. When he won the Greatwood, of course, he clocked a good number. He was third out of fences, wasn't it? Lepistan over the Christmas period. Sorry, the Dublin Racing Festival, beg your pardon, a good time figure behind
Wave of the Sea.
Wave of the Sea. So he's definitely getting better. But the trouble is with a horse like that, because he stays so well, and he stays 2.5. He acts over fences. They've got 4 options, haven't they, at the Cheltenham Festival? Like I say, so it's not an easy decision to make.
No,
it's a great decision to have in some respects because you have got lots of pros and cons to weigh up. And like I say, it won't be an easy decision. But yeah, he couldn't have done any more. Win round Kelso, a sharp 2 miles in a quick time, beat the right horse, Favois, who represented a good novice hurdle line prior to that at Haydock. some good solid handicappers like Christopher Wood, who done some good time figures on our spreadsheet, were well and truly strung out. So yeah, he couldn't have done any more. And he'll having won round Cheltenham as well. He's got lots of pluses, hasn't he? So yeah, he's a big contender whichever race he goes for.
Absolutely. And perhaps over at Newbury as well, over fences, that Bet Victor Greatwood Gold Cup Handicap Chase featured the progressive Umbregado completing a hat-trick in the hands of David Noonan for David Pipe. My misgivings were that the ground might have dried out a bit too much for him, but he showed he coped with that very well, and he's the type of horse, if they should so wish, he could roll on to Cheltenham as well and take his hand or take a chance in one of those handicaps perhaps.
I think so, Sam. Yeah, I think the Paddy Power Plate is the race muted. Certainly deserves to take his chance in that. Why not roll the dice? He's a strong traveller. He jumps well. He's on a roll. He's got lots of confidence. And his time figures are good. I mean, he was top of our figures going into that race on Saturday, which is the ironic thing. But just because he was top rate doesn't necessarily mean you've got to go for all the top rated horses we've talked about before when we've done lots of these tutorials. His top figure was courtesy of a heavy ground win. I went for Killer Clown, an improving novice who also clocked a good time at Kempton, but obviously he got farm on good ground, so I went for the good ground horse. Fortunately, it didn't come off this time, but they finished first and second, so the numbers stacked up. It looked a believable race with Killer Clown winning, finishing second. So yeah, if Umbregado goes to Cheltenham, he's another one to factor into the equation. Yeah,
brilliant. There were other notable performances through the day as well, but we won't dwell on those too much. My Drogo obviously was a bit of a catcher in that Bet365 Premier Novices Hurdle, and Aintree could be beckoning for him because I think he's going to miss Cheltenham out. And obviously Cloth Cap in the Premier Chase as well. Did his Grand National aspirations no harm whatsoever, did he?
No, not at all, Sam. Obviously not Cheltenham bound, but national bound, as you pointed out. And I think if you're looking for long-term bets, as we like to sometimes throw into the ring here on these podcasts, I think something like the 2022 Arkle for my Drogo would be very much on the agenda, wouldn't it? Trained by Dan Skelton, apparently they've already basically mapping out a campaign next season surrounding the 2-mile chasing division. I think it's one of the reasons why he's not going to Cheltenham this year. They don't want to overface him too early. They see him as a chaser. They see him as a horse with a huge amount of talent, and they don't want to bottom him just yet. But he's done everything that they've asked of him this season. He's won a Grade 2. He won a good race on Saturday, and he's got Cheltenham experience, of course, because he finished second in a bumper there, didn't he, early on in the season beyond Maximus. So he's got that feather in his cap. So a really exciting horse going forward. I think 25-1 for next year's Arkle, which, if you're prepared to lock in your money for that long, that would be definitely seen as a wise investment, I'd suggest.
Okie doke. Great. Well, to more prescient matters then. Next week's Boodles Handicap, registered as the Fred Winter, on the 16th of March, so that's Tuesday, 4:15, penultimate race on the first day of Cheltenham 2021. Sadly, we won't be there to witness it, Andy, but, a winner's a winner, and if we're sitting in our offices or on our sofas at home, that'll be very welcome. Obviously, a very interesting market because it's a little bit dominated by the Spring Juvenile at Leopardstown, of course. St. Sam's in there, Quixilios, Zana here. Two of those three, you reckon, are probably unlikely to run. Quixilios, obviously now trained by Henry de Bromhead instead of Gordon Elliott, being switched by Cheveley Park. And Zana here, Gordon Elliott's, warm favourite for the Triumph Hurdle, or joint favourite now with Tritonic. You reckon that those two will probably give this race a swerve, and St. Sam might be the only man left standing from that Spring Juvenile.
Yeah, him and Bustleton, of course. Horse we'll talk about in a second. It seems that way. It seems the logical way I'd be thinking at this stage. Zana here, no reason why he'd go into a handicap off 147 when he's favourite for the Triumph. Calixios, not absolutely rubber stamped to run in the Triumph, but again, knowing how Cheveley Park operate, they tend to run their better horses in the better quality races. You only have to look at Allaho last year. They ducked the lesser event of the Marsh, and they went for the creme de la creme race of the RSA that came unstuck. But that's the way they tend to think. They're a Grade 1 operation. They want to run their best horses in the Grade 1s. So I'd be surprised if Calixios come here. The first thing to say is that we know that Gordon Elliott has basically had a stranglehold in this division all season. So even though, his yard now is under a different tutorship for the foreseeable future, all those horses have had the right prep, and that he would know that the sort of the strength of every single race and what kind of horse to run in it. So you'd have to factor in the likes of Tiupo and particularly Riviere d'Etel. I think Gordon's won this 3 times in the last 4 or 5 years. He won it last year, of course, with Aramax. They all seem to be the same kind of horse, lightly raced. Just get them into their mark, qualify them, and then come over and scoop the pot. The only problem I've got with Riviere d'Etel, just talking about her in isolation, is she's a bit of a keen goer, and she does jump out to her right a little bit, like she did last time at Nav. And that time figure is very good, and obviously the Devil's Coachman has won subsequently. I think on form she's one of the leading players, but again, no filly has won this for a little while. It's difficult for fillies to win it, so pluses and minuses for her.
She's actually in the right official ratings band, though. You were telling me off her.
Yeah. You want to be between 139, 129, 138. No horse has ever won this over 140. So that would, in your mind, you're ruling out the likes of perhaps Yumdor, Tiupo, obviously Zanahir and Calixios. We talked about that. Marsalam, another one as well, 141. So it does make life difficult for those. Like I say, if you look at the stats, and there are a number of trends now which do tend to sort of lead you down the right path. Certain trainers like targeting it. Paul Nicholls, for instance, he's won it quite a few times with French breds. I think 3 times he's won it with French breds, and 7 times he's had a French bred that's been placed. So Hugri, his only representative this year, or his main representative, looks a leading player. So you are centering all of a sudden. You're cutting out a lot of the wheat from the chaff, and you're probably left with what you would say 4 or 5 solid horses from yards that do really well in this race, that are well handicapped or supposedly well handicapped. So okay. That's the route I'd go down.
And your short list would be then?
Well, definitely Riviere d'Etel, because she's a Gordon Elliott horse that has run in graded races and has had 3 runs. Like I said, I'm just a little bit worried that she jumps to her right, but she's definitely a very quality mare or filly. But getting onto that spring juvenile hurdle, which you talked about at the Dublin Racing Festival, the time figure that Calixios posted suggested that he's very much a player in the Triumph Hurdle. And the 2 that chased him home, St. Sam and more predominantly Bustleton, would be my 2 that I'd concentrate on at this very moment in time. St. Sam, the only problem with him, he's trained by Willie Mullins, and Willie Mullins has done really well in the Triumph Hurdle. Obviously won it again last year, albeit a little bit fortuitously. But he's yet to win this race, which seems quite odd. So on that basis, I'd probably go down the route of putting up Bustleton. He's going to be the next of our selections here on the podcast. He represents a yard who won it 2 years ago with Band of Outlaws. He's just had the 2 runs for Joseph over in Ireland. He, of course, won in France on his final start for David Cotan. And both of them have been in the very highest class. Of course, Chaitan Zanahir didn't he in that slowly run race at Leopardstown, went back to Leopardstown for the Spring Juvenile on ground that was a little bit softer than ideal. He couldn't get anywhere near the winner. He's obviously not his class, but I think it was a case of job done. I didn't really feel as though they ever thought this horse was going to be a Triumph Hurdle horse. He was always looking to. They were trying to get him qualified for this race, the Boodles, and they've managed to come out of both races amazingly unscathed off a mark of 135.
Yes,
which is a cold light today, considering he's run against the very best Irish juvenile horses, and we believe that the Irish juveniles are better than ours. 135 is right on the money. It's not too high, not too low, and he's fairly unexposed. I think better ground will suit him. And I like his attitude. He looks quite a terrier. So I'm not saying he's the next Band of Outlaws, because I think he's a different horse. Band of Outlaws had 19 runs before, believe it or not, under both codes before he went into Cheltenham. This one's only had 4. So it's a bit of a chalk and cheese with regards to profile. But yeah, I do like him. And I think he's one of the only few value bets left in the race. You can get 9 to 1 top price with 5 places, William Hill. Some firms will bet 6, maybe in 7 places on the day. But I think he'll be a 6-7 to 1 shot on the day once all the defectors go out. So yeah, time of recording, he's definitely one I'm confident putting up at this moment in time.
Okay. Don't know what you think. I mean, obviously, I sort of highlighted him at the start of the season as possibly my dark horse to follow in one or two areas. I was fortunate to have a little bit of a heads up with him. I know you were a bit lukewarm after his run at Leopardstown the first day. Obviously, not the last day, because that was a strongly run affair. Do you think, therefore, I'm not convinced that Leopardstown's particularly played to his strengths, you see. I think he's quite a big, robust, well put together horse. Do you think the track at Cheltenham will be okay for him? I mean, I personally, if I could have the ideal world, I wish running the Boodles on the Triumph Hurdle track with that long run from 2 to 1 out. I think that would really suit him. I'm just my only worry about it, if the ground dried out, everything might happen a little bit too quickly for him. That's my only issue.
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, I never really saw him as a Triumph Hurdle. So that was the point I was trying to get across when I was slightly disparaging of him. I just didn't think he'd ever beat something like a Asana here or Quilixios. He just didn't look that good, if you like, but he's good enough to win a Boodles. And the thing is, he's going to get a very strongly run race. He's going to be used to the pace that they'll go, because we've got the time figures to back that up. You know, he's run behind Quilixios is the second quickest run race all season for a 4-year-old contest. You're going to get horses like Cabo Cliffs going off in front, Balco Saint going off in front, Druids Alta going off in front. I mean, Cabo Cliffs is, you know, he runs like, you know, that his tail's on fire, doesn't he? I saw last time at Warwick. He's a very fast horse. So you need something that travels and he's used to running at speed, which Bustleton is. So I think this race is going to be a real test of stamina at the end. I think you're going to want something from 2 out to really be coming off the pace and coming up the hill. And he doesn't stop. He doesn't certainly stop running as far as I can see in his 2 runs. He's kept on very gamely.
He has, I thought he did the first on his UK debut. He did stick to his task. He was just outclassed by Zana here, and I suppose that rather imposing frame of his as well could stand him in good stead if we get the 20 odd runners that we normally get in a race. You know, the maximum field that you get in a race of this, 22, whatever it might be. What do you see as your chief danger, briefly?
I say Riviere d'Etel having run a big number. I'm trying to go for horses I know are guaranteed to handle the hurly-burly nature, because I don't think it's going to be slowly run. There's a lot of UK horses that come in here, as you can see by our figures, high 50s and very, very low 60s. They're going to get caught out here because, like I say, you need a bit of both. I mean, Coulter again, another strong Irish horse on in the betting, but he's yet to run a what we would call a championship figure. I think he might just be caught out. So yeah, I mean, obviously you'd have to factor in the Nichols horse, Hooghry, as one of the main dangers. He's very similar to Diego de Charmel, who won this. Just had the one run in this country, having come from France. Paul saw enough of him in that grade 1 at Chepstow to say, right, okay, we'll put him away now, or we'll just run him in the Boodles. It's a classic Nichols bit of placing, but the thing is, everyone spotted him and he's only a 5-6 to 1 shot, so there's not a great deal of juice left in his price. I'm not saying we won't back him if he drifted out to 8 to 1 on the day, then he becomes another factor. But right at this very moment in time, I'm trying, like I say, nominate something that I think will shorten, or think he's guaranteed to run his race, and he's still a value price if you have a bet right at this very moment in time, which is very difficult at the moment with a lot of those ante-post races at Cheltenham. So yeah, Bustleton 9 to 1 if you can get that now. Hopefully that'll prove a wise move.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, fingers crossed that A, we can get the 9 to 1, and B, that we can have a very competitive run out of Bustleton, who's a horse that's held in quite high regard, and like you say, a mark of 135 might well underestimate his chance. That's been brilliant tonight. Thanks for your praise of the weekend's action, the ante-post selection you put up there. I think we're planning to do a Gold Cup preview later in the week. That might be with Andy Bate rather than yourself. We might give you a night off for all your endeavours. Keep you fresh for the next week.
Yeah, that's it.
Freshen you up. You go out in the paddock for a few days and have a big rest if you like. And then, obviously, just to reiterate, the night before each day of the Cheltenham Festival next week, we'll be back online on the YouTube channel with a 10 to 15 minute appraisal of the following day's action and all the moves that we should be making.
Yeah, that's it. There's lots of races to get stuck into. We'll probably do most of the races, won't we, Sam? There'll be races like the cross country. Obviously, we'll probably just slide under the carpet, but we endeavour to do the very better races, and obviously the handicaps, which we haven't really given justice up to now. But things have become a little bit more clear on the day of the events, particularly, and obviously the 48-hour decks. We'll have time to appraise those, and we're bound to come up with something in those races.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Certainly with the 5, 6, 7 places, whatever is on offer as well, there'll be a multitude of bets, hopefully. But
yes.
Thanks again for joining us tonight, and we look forward to speaking to you in the fullness of time. Bye for now.
Cheers, Sam.